want to provide vision to the world. Over 1 billion people around the planet need glasses and they don't have them.
The power of putting glasses on someone's face for the first time, that's what we take the most pride in. Our overall mission is to show that you can build a great for-profit business that does good in the world without charging a premium for it. Over the last 9.5 years, we've distributed well over 5 million pairs of glasses through our Buy a Pair, Give a Pair program.
Hopefully that will influence the way that other executives and entrepreneurs run their businesses. Dave and I sit right next to each other in an open office where we're constantly bouncing ideas off of each other.
There were 4 of us who founded the business. We were friends first, and we're still best friends today.
At graduation, we decided that Dave and I would continue to run it day to day. Jeff went on to start Harry's. Andy has always been more passionate about investing, and he went on to start his own venture fund.
It made sense for Neil and I to stay on to run the business. We had kind of complementary skill sets. We worked really well together.
They made this very concerted effort to first and foremost always be friends.
I can't imagine, why they get along so well. Because, you have 2 co-CEOs, by definition, it's not an easy role to play.
The fact that they have such a close friendship, it also spills over across the organization.
I actually work in your Denver store.
Awesome.
And I think that when you see your co-CEOs build close friendships, it sends a clear message that it's okay to do that at multiple levels.
What are the 1 or 2 things that you hear most from customers?
There is like a good at the core of Warby, and there's a good at the core of like Neil and Dave. The desire to help people is very real.
It's a real family. I'm telling you, I'm not just making this up. It is one of the most beautiful things I've ever witnessed, what they have.
I was born in Sweden. My mom grew up in Sweden. My dad grew up in Los Angeles. They met studying abroad. And when I was 6 years old, moved to San Diego. That's where I grew up.
I grew up in Greenwich Village in New York City. Definitely a bit different than it is today. There weren't as many families.
The environment there was a little different than it is today. A little rougher, I would say.
At 12, I remember him saying to us, if I never had any more education, I would be fine.
I remember vividly, I was with my parents, I was watching TV, and an infomercial came on for a food dehydrator.
You pay $129.95, and believe me, it's well worth it for the work it does.
He said, I'm going to get this, and I'm going to dehydrate food, and I'll sell it, and I'll make money. And a couple of weeks later, we get this big box, and you plugged it in, and it had a heating element, except it took like 24, 48 hours to dehydrate anything. So I can't say that ever made any money.
Both my parents are doctors, and growing up, I was 100% sure I was going to become a doctor. The only choice I really had to make was what kind of doctor.
I would take him to work with me. I would tell him how much both of us enjoyed our jobs as doctors. So I was totally convinced he was going to become a doctor.
While I was in college, there were some major changes that were going on in the healthcare industry. And so for the first time, I started thinking about other potential paths. I still kind of had the values instilled in me from my parents that my career, my job should be an opportunity to help people, not just to earn a paycheck.
I went to Tufts University and majored in international relations and history. I was one of those people that wanted to change the world, but as a recent graduate, I didn't know how to necessarily do that.
After college, I spent a few years working first at Bain & Company, a strategy consulting firm, and then ended up moving to New York.
After school, I actually went to work at a think tank that came up with policies to resolve deadly conflict, but realized that wasn't exactly for me. And a family friend introduced me to an eye doctor named Jordan Castillo, and he had this great idea to train low-income women to start their own businesses, giving vision tests and selling glasses in their communities throughout the developing world where people are living on less than $4 a day. And I didn't really know much about glasses or eye care, but Jordan was telling me how over 1 billion people around the planet need glasses and they don't have them, and that glasses were invented 800 years ago. And I just thought, wow, this is crazy. Why is a technology that's 800 years old not available to every human on the planet, right? Something's wrong.
Neil was doing a lot of international development work, and so he was working for Vision Spring, and he was traveling to Guatemala, El Salvador, India, Bangladesh, and he was really building out what would be sort of Vision Spring today.
After 5 years at Vision Spring and expanding the program to 10 different countries, I found that my learning curve was starting to plateau. It was still incredibly rewarding, but I was thinking about where could I learn and grow.
I said, well, love to figure out something that I'm really passionate about.
And I thought that business school would put me in the best position.
Don't have any great ideas now, but going back to school seems like a good opportunity to explore those ideas.
An MBA, especially from a school like Wharton, which has such an amazing reputation, would position me to get a great job.
The Wharton class that they were in was a really, really special one, and they were close from the onset. Neil and Jeff and Andy and Dave met maybe the first week of school and really became fast friends, and they were really inseparable.
Our class at Wharton was over 800 people, but they divide that class into learning teams of 6 people. And Andy Hunt was one of my learning team members, and so I met him the first day of school. And I remember in one of the first conversations, as we were just getting to know each other, he was complaining that he had lost his glasses so many times that he actually got LASIK. And he couldn't understand why you could buy kind of every product under the sun online, but you couldn't buy glasses online.
They started sort of naturally talking about it before they even realized that it was going to be a business.
And that just sparked an immediate kind of passionate conversation because while traveling, I just lost my only pair of glasses.
He went on a trip to Thailand. He was backpacking there, and he left his glasses on the plane.
I had to buy 2 things, a new phone and a new pair of glasses, and the iPhone 3G had just come out. I went to the Apple store and spent $200 on this magical device that did things that I couldn't have imagined were possible even a few years earlier. And meanwhile, I was going to have to pay several times that for a new pair of glasses. It just didn't make sense to me as a consumer.
When I was at Vision Spring, I would actually travel to factories to build relationships and produce the glasses that we were distributing.
He would come back and say, they're making my glasses, the reading glasses, for a couple of bucks or whatever, or that will sell for a couple of bucks, on the same line that they're making glasses with Yves Saint Laurent name or Gucci or anything like that.
We saw some of the biggest names in fashion coming off the production line. And it was sort of this moment that, whoa, why are glasses so expensive? Certainly the manufacturing process is not different.
I remember vividly the 4 of us were in a computer lab and knew that Neil had spent some time kind of in the eyewear world, and Andy and I had been talking about why we were so frustrated as glasses consumers. And kind of as we started getting really animated about this conversation, the bell rang and all of us had to go to class.
Later that night, I remember, staying up. I wasn't able to sleep, and it's sort of like, when you have an idea and you feel it in your stomach and your mind is racing. So at like 2 a.m, I fired off an email to Dave, Jeff, and Andy. And it's like, hey, that was a really interesting conversation that we had. We should, continue the conversation. And at 2:01, Dave responded, and then Jeff responded, and then Andy responded. And sure enough, we were all up thinking about the idea. So the next day, after classes,
we agreed to reconvene off campus in our favorite bar a few hours later.
It's called Roosevelt on 23rd Street and Walnut, and just started talking through the idea of, hey, what's sort of the business strategy here? What are we personally interested in? Hey, is this something that we want to continue to pursue? And sure enough, it was.
Is there anything braver than taking on the biggest glasses company in the world?
We started Warby Parker with $120,000.
My first reaction was, that's ridiculous.
I had bought a bunch of glasses that were produced and sold by a company called Luxottica. but I'd never heard of them. I'd only heard brands like Ray-Ban and Oakley and Oliver Peoples. And most consumers don't realize that all these brands are owned or licensed and manufactured by the same company that also happens to own stores like LensCrafters and Sunglass Hut and Target Optical and Macy's Optical, and also owns iMed, which is the second largest vision insurance plan in the US. It's no surprise that a lot of those glasses are marked up 10 to 20 times what they cost to manufacture.
We had these conversations about creating our own brand of eyewear, selling it online for a fraction of the cost.
What if we cut out all the middlemen, all the unnecessary markups, and pass those savings on to consumers and offer glasses for less than $100?
I was actually teaching my first class at Wharton. It was fall of 2009.
At the time, we didn't know that we were going to start a company. We didn't know that we wanted to create a direct-to-consumer brand.
And then we thought, well, yeah, we want to pursue this idea. We need to write a business plan. Oh, why don't we register for a class where the one assignment is a business plan?
I felt like the structure they were beginning to create when I first heard about it was sort of insane.
So we spent that semester really fleshing out every piece of the business, and the output was a 40-page business plan.
While we were working on sort of the business plan and the strategy, we were also thinking through what are all the operations that we need to do? How are we going to execute against this? And it's like, okay, we're going to need to design frames. We're going to need to produce them. How do we engage with factories?
Is there anything braver than taking on the biggest glasses company in the world? They literally said, hey, this company that's been around forever, that runs the world in this industry, we're gonna do the same thing, and our goal is to do it better than you and to get as big as you.
If I had to do my career over here, I'm just personalizing, I probably should have done what they did when they were in college. Now, who knew?
One of the great things about Wharton is that we had access to such great advisors, and so we talked to, I think, every professor on campus to get their advice and feedback.
My first reaction was, that's ridiculous. You can't buy glasses over the internet.
When he asked us, well, if you're so passionate about this idea, you must be dropping out of school. And he was surprised to hear us say, well, no, we're actually going to work on this on the side while we continue to graduate.
I remember, then learning a little bit more about what their plans were like and thinking this was even more absurd than I originally thought, which was, obviously I was very, very wrong in my judgment.
Also at that time, they were trying to decide the name for Warby Parker.
It took us about 6 months, went through 2,000 different names.
Most fashion brands had names like Ralph Lauren, and we looked at our own names and didn't think that Gilboa Blumenthal really rolled off the tongue. So we spent a lot of time talking about the brand ethos and the ideals that we were trying to create, and spent a lot of time talking about the Beat Generation writers and Jack Kerouac. He'd written about these characters with really interesting names that never made it into any of his published works. And the two that caught my eye were Warby Pepper and Zag Parker.
We started Warby Parker with $120,000. That was just enough money to buy an initial inventory of frames, to build a very nascent website, and to actually hire a fashion publicist, because we knew we were building a fashion brand. And the thing that's unique about the fashion industry is that it has the fashion press, its own part of the media industry.
The fashion world is an insider's game, and it was really important that if they were going to go out with a product that was fashion first, of how they thought about positioning it and what the strategy would be to roll it out.
We wanted to get credibility from the fashion world, realized that for Wharton MBAs maybe isn't the kind of the sexiest founding team from a design fashion perspective. So we hired someone that could get us the right meetings with editors, and that allowed us to get these great features in GQ and Vogue the week we launched.
What was funny was that we were told, hey, you guys were going to be in book in the March issue of GQ. And so we had been building the website and figured that we would be ready to launch well before March. And then January came along and we get a call from the fashion director at GQ, and she said, hey guys, when's the website going up? And we're like, oh, don't worry, we'll have it up well before March 1st, well before the March issue comes out. And she said, guys, the March issue comes out in February. You guys got to get this website up.
The night before their website was supposed to launch, they didn't have a functioning website. And I remember just thinking, okay, this is an online company. Your entire business is a website. That's literally all it is. And so if you don't have a website, you don't have a business.
So we literally got the website up on February 15th, the day that the March issue was hitting subscribers' doorsteps.
And then we just flipped a switch and the site was live. And there were a bunch of things that we wanted to fix and change on the site.
We started getting calls and text messages. Hey, did you guys know that your website's live? And we're like, yeah, would you mind actually clicking through it? And if there are any bugs or anything, please let us know.
We got a few hours of sleep and then was sitting in class at 10 a.m. the next day. And I had my phone set up to be notified anytime we got an order. And my phone buzzed and I got super excited and I opened up my laptop.
The four of us are in class and we were deliberately sitting in the back row because we were processing orders and responding to customer emails during class. At one point, I remember the classroom got pretty quiet and I looked up and everybody was staring at us, including the professor, because we were typing away like crazy, but nobody was talking, so it was clear we weren't taking notes. So I quickly elbow Dave, and he looks up, sort of mortified, stops typing. He then elbows Jeff, who looks up, mortified, stops typing, who then elbowed Andy, and after that, we just stopped going to class.
And by the end of the hour-and-a-half class, we called an emergency meeting because I realized that we had taken more orders than we had inventory for.
And the day they launched was the coolest. It was so much magic and so much passion, and GQ and Vogue hit in the same day, and people wanted it and they were so hungry for it, and they sold out of their home try-on almost immediately, and they were sold out of, their top frames.
I know that Warby was pretty much the first brand to do like try before you buy. You can get 5 frames shipped to you, and so it's convenient.
Orders started to come in.
We hit our first year sales targets in 3 weeks. We were stocked out of all our most popular styles. We had a wait list of 20,000 customers, and so we didn't really have time to blink. As soon as we put that website live, we knew that we were meeting customer demand and that we were onto something.
The guys who started the game-changing eyewear company Warby Parker started with a simple question. The answer took them from a classroom study group to a billion-dollar company.
Warby Parker has exploded onto the startup scene,
slashing the price of prescription eyeglass frames.
High-fashion glasses for about $95.
An alternative to what it calls overpriced and bland eyewear.
Doesn't Joe wear these? He's a Warby guy.
I just remember at the time watching it begin to take off and think, wow, these guys really knew what they were doing.
They innovate in the giving as much as they do in the product.
I need a pair of contact lenses. Where do you go? Hello, Warby Parker.
Eyewear brand Warby Parker announced it's expanding its focus, adding a new prescription business called Scout.
We're super excited to just have launched Scout, which is really the first sub-brand that we've ever launched in an entirely new category, contact lenses.
Just like our glasses, they're top quality, but at a fraction of the price.
We know that about 40% of our customers wear contacts regularly.
How long did it take you to actually research the market, get the product where you need it to be?
We started in earnest about 1.5 years ago.
This is the most natural next step in the world. Why? Because if I think of, oh, I need a pair of contact lenses, so I want them, where do you go? Hello, Warby Parker.
And I think Warby has really struck a nerve in like people's hearts, souls, brains, eyeballs. They really saw something in the market that wasn't there before, and they filled it. And they filled it with passion and empathy and also soul.
We've been careful to really stage new introductions over the last several years, and we felt like this was the time where we had a lens that was really unique and differentiated, and we could bring it to market successfully.
When we started Warby Parker, we envisioned that it was at the intersection of fashion and design, the tech startup world, and the social enterprise world. Now, increasingly, we also view sort of healthcare as sort of the fourth bucket, and if those 4 buckets intersected, we're right smack in the middle.
You know, what I've always been so impressed with the guys is being customer first and thinking about, you know, how do we give this customer a very well-rounded experience, and how do we make sure that even as we scale, it still feels small and it still feels personal, and we're still delivering that level of detail.
I think this year is going to be especially crazy with contacts.
It's an amazing brand that people not just like the product, but they like the values of the brand. And you know, when you walk into a Warby store, you instantly feel it. You can feel the DNA of the brand.
In a business like this, stores are a heck of a lot more important than some other businesses. I think stores are always important, but particularly on eyeglasses.
Hopefully when they walk into your store, they can sort of very emotionally feel what your brand is about.
I think the most impressive thing about them is that they're known for their glasses. There's so many people who don't even know all the good that this company is doing.
I know they've helped many people get glasses at a much lower price, but what I'm most proud of is the charitable part of Warby Parker, where they give away 1 pair for every pair they sell.
When you come in to solve such a massive problem, and you gather all this information that says, hey, wait a minute, there are a lot of people who are being either not served or underserved or disadvantaged by the way that this product is sold. We're gonna fix that, and we're gonna do it in a way that reflects our values. I think that gives you a lot of conviction.
It's funny because now all the time you hear brands that are like, we're the Warby Parker of X, we're the Warby Parker of Y. Like, Warby Parker is like the Warby Parker of Warby Parker, not to be kind of meta about it.
When we were building Warby Parker, we thought it was an inherent good to bring down the price of glasses from $400 or $500 to $95. But even then we knew that there were hundreds of millions of people around the world that couldn't afford $95. So we thought, how can we help solve this problem?
Since day one, we've had our buy a pair, give a pair program in place, where for every pair of glasses we sell, we work with a nonprofit to distribute a pair of glasses to someone in need.
We provide funding that enables them to procure glasses, to train people that go into communities throughout the world to provide glasses. Another is going into public school systems like in New York and Baltimore and Philadelphia.
Actually administering eye exams in the schools themselves. We've designed a special collection of glasses where kids can choose their own style and color.
We ensure that kids have the glasses that they need to succeed in school and eventually succeed in life.
They innovate in the giving as much as they do in the product. And they've been incredibly successful. So, not only are those guys, role models to me as friends and entrepreneurs, but the company itself is a North Star.
I'd be willing to bet, based on the evidence I've seen and based on watching them, that the generosity that they bring to the table as leaders is a huge part of their success. I've seen it internally with their culture a ton.
It's the leadership and their connection to people. I've always found that if you treat others well, they're going to respect you and treat you well. It's not a bureaucracy. They listen, which is a must in any business in the world. And people feel that they're part of a team.
In this day and age, you have a lot of choices when you're buying things. You have a lot of brands to choose from, and I think that this generation of consumers, whether it's like millennials, Gen Z, everyone just is connecting to authenticity, and people are smart. People are savvy. They can see through things if it's not real.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Every single time they go on a trip, they make sure to go, drive an hour and a half out of the way to stop into a store, to go there for 15 minutes to say hi. And they always know the employees' names. They always know what's going on in that store. And they really make an extraordinary effort. More than anything, I think it's just them being present. They're so present every day because they really care.
I think they treat it like a small company. And to me, small is the new big.
So they just announced recently that they've given away 5 million pairs of glasses. And when I try to envision, 5 million people who wouldn't be able to buy glasses otherwise, that's just amazing.
Neil's someone that has always lived his life according to very strong values and principles, and that has sometimes led to some unconventional decisions.
Dave's one of the smartest people that I know, and he could be doing anything with his time, from developing rockets to working as a great surgeon. And I think his one brave thing is to take a risk in Warby Parker and take a risk with me, so the nonprofit guy.
It's just been great to have someone that I can share the journey with, where being a CEO or being an entrepreneur can often be a very lonely endeavor, and having a friend and a partner makes the highs higher and also makes the lows higher. So I just feel really lucky to be on this journey with Neil.